If you love wisdom, put your mind up to the ceiling. Don't let it stay in the gutter. Don't let your heart get all cluttered. No, I did not stutter. Listen to all that I've muttered. Your life will only go well if you in wisdom or lovers.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
You and I. You and I.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
Hey, what's going on, and a good afternoon to you. This is JC Johnson, and you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. All right, so this week we are going to continue a discussion on the wisdom of diversity. All right, so we spoke about it a few weeks ago, and today we're going to conclude that conversation. And we have a special guest with us today, Goran Stefanovic. He's going to be joining us shortly. So we're going to play just a little bit of a clip for you here, and then we're going to be right back after this.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside.
Hey, what's going on, Wisdom family? Each week on For the Love of Wisdom, we promote a new and free audiobook that we believe you will benefit from and become wiser by listening to. On today's show, we're talking about the wisdom of diversity. And so, the recommended book for this week is Inclusion, Diversity, the New Workplace, and the Will to Change. This book is about how businesses can and should embrace diversity and thrive as an organization. To download this free book today, just visit audibletrial.com/lovewisdom. audibletrial.com/lovewisdom.
All right, what's going on? This is JC Johnson, and you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on today's episode, we are discussing the wisdom of diversity. All right, so diversity can mean a lot of different things. If you are familiar with the conversation we had a few weeks ago, you'll kind of know where this is going. But if it's new to you, then we're going to go over a little bit of what we went over last time, and then we're going to jump right into the content for today. All right, so just as a reminder, this show is about wisdom, and the reason why the show is titled For the Love of Wisdom is because it's actually a breakdown of the word philosophy. All right, so philosophy has Greek roots, and if you look at the word and you break it down, you can divide it in half. Philos or philos, it means love. All right, and the word sophos or sophia, depending on how you're reading it in the Greek, that means wisdom. All right, so when you put the two together, it literally means love of wisdom. And that's what this show is, and that's what we talk about every week. We discuss wisdom, right? We discuss things that are relative and important to our lives so that we can make good decisions. You know, that's what it's all about. It's about doing things that will put us in a good place in life and not hold us back, or, you know, make decisions that we're going to regret. That's what we don't want to do, right? So we want to make wise decisions. We want to do good things in this life. So that's pretty much what it's about. And so every week, you know, I do like to kind of break down what the word is that we're going to be discussing for that week so that we're all on the same page. But before we do that, just a quick update. Last week we went over the wisdom of equity. All right, and that was a pretty good episode. It was actually 2 different episodes, because, you know, this show is 2 hours, so usually have one episode on the first hour, another one on the second. So if you missed it, don't worry about it, because you can always listen back at past episodes. You can just go on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music. Even if you have an Amazon Alexa enabled device, you can just say, "Hey Alexa, play For the Love of Wisdom," and it'll actually bring it up that way too. So there's a lot of different ways that you can listen to the show, even if you miss it live. But we are live every Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on North Coast Underground. So that's the best place to catch it if you don't want to have to wait for it, because it is a little bit of time between when it airs and, you know, when it comes back as a podcast. So you definitely want to try to catch it when it's fresh. So again, today we're talking about diversity, and we actually started this conversation a few weeks ago. And one other thing before we get into that, equity. Since we talked about that last week, just as a recap, we basically said that equity is just the quality of being equal or fair, right? It's about impartiality when it comes to dealing with others. It's really synonymous with symmetry, fairness, equal rights, kindness, moderation, right? So that's pretty much what it's all about. It's about being even, being just, being equal. Great quote from last week was from Barbara Boxer, where she said, "We are all different, yet we are all God's children. We are all united behind this country and the common cause of freedom, justice, fairness, and equality. That is what unites us." All right, so that's a great quote right there. It really summed up what we were talking about last time, but we're moving it forward now. So we are talking about diversity this week. And a good scripture verse I think that relates to this is from Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 15 through 19, where it says, "And a person's body has more than one part. It has many parts. So the foot may say, 'I am not a hand, so I don't belong to the body.' But saying this would not stop the foot from being a part of the body. The ear might say, 'I'm not an eye, so I don't belong to the body.' But saying this would not make the ear stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, it would not be able to hear. If the whole body were an ear, it would not be able to smell anything. If each part of the body were the same part, there would be no body. But as it is, God put all the parts in the body as he wanted them. He made a place for each one. So there are many parts, but only one body." All right, so this is a great verse, I think, that really helps to explain diversity, right? Because diversity is all about having equal but different parts. And people play different roles in this life. Everybody has a different role. So basically, one person is not more important than the other, right? So if somebody is the president of the United States, it doesn't mean that they're more important than somebody who works at McDonald's. Now, their job may be more important, right? Of course, them as a person, their worth. The president doesn't have more worth than a cashier at McDonald's. Each of them has equal worth. It's just that their position is not equal. So that's something that's really important to understand and to think about as we're talking about diversity, because really we're talking about how many different colors can come together to create one beautiful painting. We're all in this life, we are all like that paint. Not everybody can be the red paint. Not everybody can be the blue paint. Not everybody can be the white paint, right? But the important thing is that we all understand that all of us are important in order to make this portrait unique and wonderful and beautiful and special, right? So just taking a look at, what this word means, I want to look at the American Heritage Dictionary. So this says basically that diversity is about differing from one another. It's made up of distinct characteristics, qualities, or elements relating to or containing people from different ethnicities and social backgrounds. So those are kind of different ways to look at it depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about sociology, or you're just talking about the bare basics, one person or thing different from another, or you're talking about characteristics, maybe two people are similar in some ways, but distinct in other ways, such as their personality, or the size of their ears or something like that, right? So there's a lot of things that can make us unique and special. The online etymology dictionary has this to say: it's the quality of being diverse. It's the fact of difference between two or more things or kinds. It's about variety, separateness, that in which two or more things differ, mostly in a natural sense, right? Basically, it's difference, diversity, unique feature, oddness, right? Like The Odd Couple. I don't know if you remember that show. It's a show from back in the day. It was pretty cool, about these two guys that couldn't be any more opposite, yet they were roommates and they had to learn how to work together. It it was pretty cool. I would check that out. You can probably catch it on Nick at Night or something like that. But that, says a lot about diversity. That's what it's really all about. It's about how differences can come together and just make something wonderful. So when we come back, we're gonna discuss a little bit more on this, just understanding the word, and then we're gonna get into some of the headlines that have been in the news lately as it relates to diversity. Some positive ways that we've seen diversity, and some ways in which diversity really wasn't shown. All right, so that's something that we definitely need to understand in order to fully dive into the topic. Here with me today, special guest Goran Stefanovic. What's going on, Goran?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah, so we are, we're getting ready to go to a break, but Goran, when we come back,
we're gonna talk more about life.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about life, and specifically today, since we're talking about diversity, we're gonna speak about the cultural gardens, right?
We're gonna speak about Cleveland and people in Cleveland who live in Cleveland for so many years and doing something special down there, and it was amazing. But let's go on that after the break.
Yeah, we'll be right back after this. You're listening to North Coast Underground.
Okay, ciao.
Hey everybody, you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets.
With your host, Jason Johnson.
All right, what's going on, and welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets, right here on North Coast Underground. And I got a couple special guests with me today. We got Goran.
Yo, what's going on, people?
And
how you doing?
Jay.
Yeah, Jada Prince. How you doing?
All right, good. So, so today we're talking about diversity, and I think this is a really important topic. So important, in fact, that we had to talk about it again because we actually talked about it a few weeks ago. So this is something that I think applies to everyone, and at least it should apply to everyone. So just before the break, we were just talking about what diversity is, just looking at the the dictionary definitions of it and everything. And now we're going to just break it down a little bit. And Goran, I know that you can relate to this since you're in a band, but I'm gonna give an example here.
Okay,
all right,
give me an example. Come on.
Okay, so basically, diversity is all about things being equal but different and unique, right? So if let's just say you have a band and everybody in the band was the drummer.
Well, that band would sound like a band of drummers,
right?
And you would just listen to like percussions and drums. Am I right?
I mean, if it was all drums, yes, it would sound like a band of drummers.
Yeah, it would be like, but.
Yeah, and
I don't know if that would work, man.
Yeah, I mean, it may be kind of cool, especially if everyone's professional and they're all able to play on beat. It'd be cool, but
I have somebody. The band with just the drummers. I gotta show you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's one thing. Maybe I don't know if they're all percussionists, and maybe one person is playing bongos, someone else is playing the xylophone, someone else is playing the drum set.
Yeah.
But if you have 5 people, let's say, and each of them are just playing the drum set, and each of them are playing the same thing, it might sound good. It might even be interesting to see them all playing together in unison. The only problem is that
that sounds like socialism.
The problem with it is that there's no dynamic to it. That's why when you throw in a bass player, when you can throw in someone playing the electric guitar or acoustic guitar, you got someone on piano, you got maybe someone playing a horn instrument,
and then you get Jimi Hendrix experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine if it was Jimi Hendrix by himself playing the guitar. I mean, I'm sure people would still be amazed by it, but it wouldn't be complete without the drummer, without the bass player, without the rrhythm section really bringing it together.
It wouldn't be experience.
Yeah, it would just be
like
somebody.
Jim Morrison by himself, not the Doors.
Right. It's just one person doing one thing.
Yeah.
And that's limited. But it's always much better when you see a bunch of skilled musicians or just skilled people in general who can all come together and play their part. They all do their thing, and it comes together and it sounds amazing. right?
It makes harmony. It makes music.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It makes
You can't
music.
have everyone doing the same exact thing. Like even when you see like a singing group or something, you have
Right.
one that's that they sing the lower notes, the other one sings like the higher notes.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? You can't just have everyone that sings the same.
The same
The
note.
same
You
note.
have to fix that mic. I can't barely hear you.
What about now?
Yeah, you gotta pick it up like I did, So it's gonna be like, so you can sound better.
Yeah, we're getting it
Yeah,
together
that's
in
cool.
here.
It's a
Just-
mess.
Yeah, we want to make sure.
Mess.
Just want to make sure everyone can hear, right? So, all right, but yeah, I think you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, but basically, diversity is really important. However, it's some even though it's something that we experience in our everyday lives, I don't think everyone notices it. So when it comes to other issues outside of things like music, then it's like I don't think people see the importance of it all the time. And so that's why we have to give examples like this to put it in perspective, right? Because you have to ask, is diversity something that is truly accepted in the world that we live in?
I think like 50-50 it is. Like some people do, some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for me personally, like I have a wide range of friends that I have. I feel like it's very diverse. And I always feel like, I learn something new from my friends all the time. Like just almost even in just the way that they were raised or like stuff like that. And it's so different for me. But it's really cool to know this and see this. I think it's very important that people experience that because, I mean, they're people just like, somebody might be just like you, except they do things different. Their culture is a little different.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you can see that. Once in a year, Cleveland celebrates. We mentioned earlier, One World Day, and you can see the difference in countries.
Wait, what's One World Day?
One World Day in Cleveland. Well, that's a celebration of all people who live in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, I did one interview over there, and we can listen to that a little bit later. Jason, you had something to say about the. You mentioned something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are gonna go into
just
to the cultural garden.
We're gonna wait for it. Okay, just
Probably
hang on a second. Hang on a second.
But probably either before the end of the hour or at least early within the next hour, we're gonna play that clip.
We're gonna leave that for the next. But I'm saying, you can see that difference in people. Imagine like he said in a band, that everybody's playing like drums, and imagine the factory that everybody is doing the same thing.
Exactly. What if everybody was the manager?
Yeah.
Then who would be building the cars?
That could be very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be very, very bad.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, are you
What are you? Well, I'm a manager, and next person like, I'm a manager too.
All right, well, I need you to mop the floor. That's not my job description.
That's not my job.
I was about to tell you to mop the floor. Wait, but I'm supposed to tell you to mop the floor. Wait, so the floor never gets mopped.
The thing about diversity, I feel like it really does put people in their places, though. Like when you have a whole bunch of different people all in one room, you start to see people rise up as leaders, and people start to rise up as
get in the mic, man. I can't hear.
People start to rise up as leaders. Other people kind of follow along, and you kind of get you kind of form your own social group with people. It's funny. It's just human nature. It's how it is. I watched this documentary on Netflix, and it was like a social documentary where they had these group of guys, and they said, you guys are the jailers, you guys are the prisoners, and then you treat it like jail. Go about, do your thing, and you notice how people change being put in certain positions and stuff like that. It was a really good movie, but it was about diversity and how people can come together and form a group that can actually function without knowing people's backgrounds and stuff like that. And I thought that it was a good movie. I didn't finish it though.
Oh, okay.
I fell asleep.
Okay, here's the homework for you. You gotta go home and finish that movie, man.
Exactly.
No, I pretty much know how it ends. It's good.
Okay. Well, but yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can approach this topic, and like you said, movies, music. There's a lot of ways that we see culture and we see differences in people, and if we can appreciate that, it makes life so much better. It makes it so much more interesting. But if you just, like, let's just say you only want to hang around people who are just like you, who think exactly how you do, you're never going to go to the next level, because before you know it, you'll just be looking out the window and seeing people's heads just popping out of there, like right now.
Oh, look at that. Hello, John.
That scared me.
Yeah, so, living a life that allows you to be in a place of diversity, it can be pretty scary, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can't be around a whole bunch of me's or peoples like me. I need more laid back, chill people, because if I was around a whole bunch of me's, I would have to jump out a window. I would.
Yeah, that would
take it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you have a bunch of people who are, really like super outspoken together, or a bunch of people who are just super quiet. It's like,
it's not fun.
Yeah. That's why you need those differences.
You can just hear the bugs, like in a cartoon, like.
But more on that after this. We're going to play some music. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets on North Coast Underground.
You're now listening to For the Love of Wisdom on NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the underground starts with who? No other but you.
Right, welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And here today with Goran Stefanovic.
Hello.
In a little while, we're going to actually talk about the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. He did an interview there, which is pretty cool. So I want you all to be able to hear that, because it really relates to what we're talking about today when we're talking about diversity, right? So
yeah,
a couple of important headlines that I think that really speak to this topic. And one here is an article that was actually written last year, but I think it's so pertinent to what we're talking about today. All right, and it was an article by Benny Luo. And in this article, he talks about one of the stars in the Power Rangers movie that came out last year. And the headline is, "He was bullied as a kid for being Chinese. Now he's the Black Power Ranger." All right, so if you're familiar, I don't know, Goran, did you watch Power Rangers when you were younger?
Yeah, when I was a kid. That was really very popular over there, actually. Who would imagine that?
Right, and you're from Serbia. So.
Yeah, and I'm from Serbia, and very much, and it was popular. But I really don't remember, like, who was the Black Ranger or something. It was like 10, 15, 20 years ago or something.
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
I couldn't even know my watched it.
Yeah, but you're not beside the microphone, so I can't hear you.
Next time.
And I don't know. Yeah, they had some like experience in school and something. Like they was bullied, and then like they becoming a superhero and stuff.
Right. So this guy, I mean, I guess this was his real life story. So, the character who actually played the Black Ranger in the new Power Ranger movie, this is a guy who is from China, right? And he talked about how when he came to the United States from China, he talked about how he got made fun of a lot, right? So it says here that growing up, and this guy's name is Lin. It says growing up, Lin got into many fights in school because of his ethnicity. Even after moving to Canada to finish his studies, he was still picked on by bullies. Right?
They thought they thought he's a Bruce Lee or something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess and that's unfortunate, and kids can be cruel, but where do kids learn this from? They learn this from their parents, right? They learn
this from
society.
A TV.
Yeah,
and iPad today.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important to make sure that children have the right information, so that when they see people, they're seeing them as they are, as people, and not as anything else. So here's what Lin had to say. He said, "Being a new kid, you're an outsider. Even moving from Australia to Canada, because I spoke with an Australian accent, all these guys were like, 'What are you supposed to be? What are you? You look Asian. You look Chinese, but you speak with this weird English,' right? So imagine that."
I can't imagine. I know how that feels. Man.
Yeah.
I know how that feels.
Yeah, so it's hard, it's hard enough
that he's in this place that he's not familiar with, a place that he's not really used to. But on top of that, he has an accent from a different place, which is different from the place that he's actually from. So now you are mixing both, Australian culture and Chinese culture, and now you're bringing it to Canada.
Wow.
So imagine, how difficult that can be for people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
just imagine that.
yeah.
So,
and one thing he said, as a Chinese American, one of the things, well, actually, this is what the writer said. He said that he appreciates that Lin spoke real Chinese in the Power Ranger movie. So there was a scene or several scenes where Lin would speak to his mother, and it showed that interaction, and they did all of that in Mandarin, right? And so one thing that they were saying here is that in a lot of Hollywood movies, whenever you see someone speaking in Chinese, like in Rush Hour and stuff like that, it's saying that the Chinese that's being spoken is not proper Chinese. It's like some sort of Hollywood Chinese, almost to make fun of it, instead of having like the real stuff, like from someone who actually knows the language, who can put it in the movie properly, to respect the language.
Exactly.
So one thing that Lin had to say about that, he said, Hollywood films are so serious and meticulous about every single little detail, but why is it when it comes to just a different language, you can't find an Asian guy to actually look over the scene and ask, is this proper?
Man, that's like, maybe they don't have time for it.
Yeah, but imagine this. Imagine if you were watching a movie and it was supposed to take place in Serbia.
It was supposed to be Serbian, real Serbian, and they have Serbian guy with the accent talking over there, which is not Serbian. But I mean, Balkanian, it can't be like that. I don't know, man. It's kind of, that's messed up. That's not fair.
Right. And especially with technology and things, why wouldn't you be able to actually get a person who's actually from there to just say, well, yeah, this is how it's supposed to sound.
To make grammatical corrections.
Right.
And things. Yeah. That's not right. That's not right.
One thing that Lin spoke about, he just talked about how for Asian Americans, how things can be different, right, when you have to balance these two cultures. So he said he has to be one way around his parents to respect the traditional Chinese culture, and then he's another way around his friends because he wants to fit in, because he's in the he's in Canada, and he wanted to make sure that his friends didn't make fun of him or not understand certain things. So
like
he talks
the
about
joke or something.
Right. So he talks about the difficulty trying to balance those two things.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, did he fit in at the end?
Well, ultimately, yeah. He got into some serious martial arts, and he got like super cut up and everything.
So he became. You are trying to say he became a superhero,
right?
At the end, like in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, he had a lot of challenges that he experienced in his life, but ultimately he rose above that. And I'm sure the people that used to make fun of him are probably asking for his autograph or for some money or something. That's just how it goes.
Nobody should make fun out of nobody. You never know what is going to happen tomorrow.
Exactly.
Today it's easy to become a millionaire or become wealthy or to live a super life. So don't make fun out of nobody.
No.
Respect.
Exactly.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, we're gonna get more into that, but I think that's pretty cool that because there I don't remember there being an Asian male character in the original Power Rangers.
Male character?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Let me look it up.
No,
I don't remember that. Let me see that.
But it's something. As a matter of fact, not even just in Power Rangers, but it's just not something common to see in a Hollywood movie. Anyway, it's unless it's like something that's a kung fu type of movie, martial arts. And technically you could say Power Rangers uses martial arts, but it's not a martial arts movie. It's really a superhero movie. So it's different.
But yeah, that's something that's rare, and there's a lot of different ethnicities that you don't normally see in major movies for whatever reason. But I think that we're seeing as time goes on, they're changing that, little by little.
They represented Serbians, and a couple of years ago they represented just like a terrorist or something.
Oh yeah.
We had like, and I was like, I don't remember the name of the movie, but I was watching it and I see like Serbians are terrorists and this, that's a bad commercial for us, Don't do that.
That's true. Yeah, it gives people the wrong perception.
Yeah,
if that's all you see. Yeah, especially like Russians. Typically, when you see a Russian in a movie,
when you see
the bad
Hollywood
guys.
version of Russians, they're all terrorists.
Right. It makes you think, wow, I don't want to go to Russia.
I don't want to go to Russia, And right. I can tell you, Russia is a beautiful country.
But more on that after this. You are listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. We'll be right back.
What's up? It's your girl Queen Z from the Queen Z Show, and you are listening to For the Love of Wisdom.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. All right, so here today with special guest Goran Stefanovic.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yep, and also we got Jada Prince hanging out with us today as well. Today we're talking about the wisdom of diversity, right? And so before the break, we looked at a headline. It was an article written about a guy who is from China, but he moved to Australia and then to Canada.
Get the bed down.
Oh yeah, and he actually was in the Power Rangers movie that came out last year, and he just talked about how he had some issues when he was growing up, where he used to get made fun of for being Chinese, which is horrible, for someone to be made fun of because of where they come from. It just shows the lack of understanding that people really have, because everyone comes from somewhere. So who's to say that coming from one place is better than coming from another place? It just, it doesn't make sense, but it's pretty common, even amongst adults who should know better, but it happens all the time. So that's where the kids are learning it from. So it was pretty cool just to see how he overcame, how he was able to, get over that and, still become successful despite that. And so one headline here that I think is really important, and it's interesting because we don't really know too much about what goes on in other countries unless you're really into that, right? So in the United States, it seems that we're kind of United States centric. We're real nationalistic in that it seems that everything we care about has to do with here. We want to know about music that was made by people from the United States. We watch movies that were produced in the United States. We don't typically watch a lot of foreign films. Like we don't, I don't really know people who said, hey, did you see that new Serbian film, right? Or hey,
I didn't pay attention on that, to be honest with you, but I noticed that for example, in Serbia, when I was growing up, I was living over there for the last 26 years, and like last 10 years I've been over here in the United States. For instance, in Serbia, you can hear all the songs from America, whichever is popular in the top 40. And over here, you can't hear that on the radio. I didn't find any radio station that play, maybe on 88.1 or something like that. I can catch like Sunday afternoon, and every country have 1 hour of program. And why is like that? That was my question. They're playing on most popular stations in Cleveland, for example. I am a radio person. I like to listen to the radio, but I can't stand like they're playing the songs over and over again. Every day is the same song. You can adjust the clock
right
by that, and it's just like it's stupid. Yeah,
I mean that is a part of
what's the point?
Because this nation is one of capitalism, and in order for artists, or really record labels, not really so much the artists, but for the record label to make money,
everything. Every band have a B side. Every band have a B side, and there is music from Europe too. So let's mix it up a little bit. Let's make people to feel comfortable that they are living on a planet Earth, not just in America.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. I know what you're saying with that, because I would like to hear more variety on the radio, but unfortunately, as of right now, that's just not the way music is marketed. Because again, you have to remember, it's all business, and music, a song is like a commercial. So the record label says this particular song is the one we want people to hear, and we want them to hear it so much that they're going to get tired of it. And then after they get tired of it, we want them to get sick of it. And then after they get sick of it, we want them to come to our concerts. We want them to buy the merchandise.
I'm not going to buy the CD if I get sick of the Adele. I'm not going to buy the CD. Or whatever it is, nicotine, whatever it is popular right now, I'm not going to buy that. And I'm not going to listen it anymore, because I heard it so many times and I'm sick of it, Yeah,
and it can be like that. But I think, for a lot of people, even if they get tired of it, what happens is it just becomes a part of their subconscious. But before they know it, they're singing it. Next thing you know, somehow they're contributing to that artist in some way, whether it's buying a concert ticket, or it's downloading a song, or it's whatever that it is that they do. They end up jumping on the bandwagon eventually, and I think that's what they're hoping will happen.
Who said? Yeah, you're all right. Who said the other day? I was going through my Facebook, and I saw somebody posted, like Jim Morrison said, "Whoever controls the media controls the brain and the mind." That was by Jim Morrison a long time ago, maybe from 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, come on, people. Open your mind.
Right. Exactly that. But see, the thing is, a lot of people don't like to think. So, and there's people who are pretty smart who recognize that. So they say, well, if people don't like to think, we'll think for them.
Yes.
And that's how businesses make money, but that's also how bad things happen in the world. That's how, in Germany, so many people were following behind, this Nazi regime, because people said, well, we don't know what to do, but it seems like somebody knows what to do, so let's just do that. Instead of people challenging the system and saying,
that's deep.
Yeah.
We don't go over there. don't even think about it. That's deep.
Yeah, but no,
that's deep. Okay. Why that happened in Germany? Okay, come on.
Right, because
Germany was, after the First World War, Germany was ruined. So there had to be somebody like a superhero who's gonna get out there and say, "Hey, I promise you a good life. I promise you a good pay, good jobs, and everything. So you're gonna be safe. So that's why that happened."
Yeah, but we're reaching the conclusion of hour one, but we'll be right back. In the second hour, we're gonna play some music for you, and then we're gonna continue this conversation on the wisdom of diversity. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
Knowledge is power, power is money, and money makes the world go round.
Money, power, respect, I get it. Higher, learning, yeah, I'm winning. Only get better with time, keep got on my mind with wisdom. There's no limit, there's no limit. Get up and get it, can achieve the impossible, conquer every obstacle. Exhausted with grinding, constantly pushing, do what they say I could. Life is what you make it. Knowledge is power, don't let them take it. If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
You and I. You and I.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely